Right now, I'm standing on the highest point in New Hanover County. No, it's not a park or a mountaintop. We're at the New Hanover County Landfill. Hi, I'm Joe Sullyman. I'm the Director of Recycling and Solid Waste for New Hanover County. And one of the missions of every employee out here is to try to keep as much out of the landfill as we possibly can. Things that are recyclable don't belong in the landfill. Things like this bottle. This bottle is recyclable. A lot of folks out there believe that recycling is a myth. We're here today to talk about why recycling is important, how important it is to the life of this site behind me to keep recyclable materials out of the landfill, and we'll also talk about some tips that'll help you become a better recycler. This is probably one of the most recycled items on the planet. Basic aluminum can. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to make one aluminum can. In fact, if you recycle one aluminum can, you're basically saving enough power to run a television set for 2 hours. So we're going to put this in our recycle bin. Steel food cans. Oftentimes I hear them referred to as tin cans, but I'm here to tell you there's not an atom of tin in this can. It's actually made out of steel, and it has a food-safe coating on the inside to keep it from rusting or imparting that metal taste into your food. Really super easy to recycle these cans. Give it a quick rinse, toss it in your recycle bin. You don't need to remove the paper label. Once this goes to a smelter, it's going into a furnace at about 900 degrees Celsius, and that paper is going to go away really quickly. One thing we see a lot of are common batteries. As a nation, we go through billions of batteries a year, but we don't want you to throw this in your recycle bin. Batteries that get thrown in the recycle bin end up at our material recovery facility, where our recyclable materials like cans and bottles get processed. There's a pretty good chance this battery is going to get damaged in that process and cause a fire. And we definitely don't want a fire at our material recovery facility. Batteries like this, all batteries in fact, from the small hearing aid batteries all the way up to car-sized batteries, can go to your household hazardous waste facility. We have several locations in New Hanover County for you to take these batteries to, but in addition, every New Hanover County library has a battery collection bin. From there, they get collected, transported, and recycled safely. So this container containing bleach in it is recyclable. I took a look at the bottom, and you can see the 3 bent arrow symbol on the bottom of the container, and it has the number 2 in it. That tells me it's a high-density polyethylene. It's the same kind of material your milk jugs and orange juice jugs are made out of. And the great thing about this plastic, which originates from oil, is we don't want to keep pumping for more oil to make more containers like this and use it a single time. Give this container another life. The way you can do that is put it in your recycle bin. It's very easy preparation. Just rinse it out, put the cap back on, and then place it in your recycle bin. Number 2 plastics, that high density polyethylene, gets recycled back into other containers just like this, or into things like park benches and picnic tables. Styrofoam's everywhere in our life. Unfortunately, you don't want to put styrofoam in your recycling bin if you live in New Hanover County. You can recycle this at UNCW. They have a recycling center on Lionfish Drive on campus, where they have what's called a densifier. And that densifier breaks or solves that problem, which is this material is too light to transport effectively. It densifies that material down into briquettes that weigh about 45 pounds, and then we can get that recycled efficiently. What happens to this is manufacturers use recycled styrofoam to make things like crown molding in your home, or baseboards, or even picture frames. So you definitely want to recycle your styrofoam. It needs to be clean and dry for it to be effectively recycled. And then you just take that to UNCW's recycling center on Lionfish Drive on campus, and they'll take care of the rest. Coming back to plastic containers, you know, we mentioned earlier that if you look on the bottom or on the side or on the label of many plastic containers, you'll see that 3 bent arrow symbol with a number inside of it. This happens to be a number 5. And that's very easy to recycle. You just remove the lid, give it a quick rinse, replace the lid, and put it in your recycle bin. What happens to it is after it gets flaked and washed, it then gets sold as a raw material, but most commonly you'll see this come back as either another container, but more recently they were starting to build clothing out of this type of plastic material. It's known for its insulating qualities and water resistant qualities, but again, number 5s are acceptable for recycling in New Hanover County. In the same family as plastics is this number 1 container. Now, number 1s are usually associated with things like water and soda bottles, but what you're seeing more and more of are these clamshell containers. The only thing you need to do to prepare this for recycling is sometimes you'll see a little absorbent pad in the bottom of that container. Just go ahead and remove that, and any residue from the food that might have been in there, just give it a quick rinse, seal it up, and put it in your recycle bin. Number 1 plastics come back in many different forms. They come back as food and beverage containers like this, or water bottles, but they're also used to make clothing as well. And you'll see them a lot in microwavable dinners too. The trays that come in there, that's more than likely a number 1. So this has many future uses ahead of it rather than creating new plastic from oil. All right, bubble wrap. After you get done playing with it, like I probably will here as soon as we get finished up, any kind of plastic film is probably recyclable, but you don't want to put it in your recycling bin at home. The reason why we don't want you to do that is because plastic film and plastic bags tend to get tangled around all that moving machinery that we have at the facility that processes your recyclables. Any plastic bag or film that's clean and dry can be taken back to your grocery store. You'll see containers outside there. You want the one marked plastic. Well, if you have any skeptical ideas about what happens to it from there, I'm here to tell you it's a very lucrative process. So that material gets taken to the back of the house in the store, and then it gets baled. And then as those distribution trucks come to resupply that store with their groceries, rather than sending that truck back empty, they'll load those bales of plastic bags and film onto that truck. So from all those multiple stores, you're going to see all these bales coming and congregating in one place, which is the distribution center. And then trucks will come pick those bales up and take them to recycling facilities that convert them into engineered lumber. So you'll see them on artificial decking material. You'll see them out in parks as picnic tables or park benches as well. So a great end use for this product. But again, just as a reminder, please don't put it in your household recycling bin and save us the trouble of clearing those jams out later. Thank you. All right, another example of plastic bags and film. So this tortilla bag, same process as with the bubble wrap, is if you can't reuse it and you want to recycle it, just remember not to put it in your recycle bin at home. Accumulate those materials, maybe stuff them into another plastic bag, and then once you go grocery shopping, just drop it in that bin marked plastic outside that store entrance, and you give this another life as either a park bench or a picnic table. So the newest addition to our acceptable list on our recyclings are these K-pods. A lot of these are in folks' homes, and there's millions and millions of these pods going into landfills every year. With our ability to recycle these now, there's a couple steps you need to go through to prepare this pod for recycling. The first step is to remove that foil top, then reach down inside that pod and pull out that little bag that contains the coffee or tea, give it a quick rinse, and you're ready to recycle that pod. This pod will come back as park benches, picnic tables, a lot of different products made out of this number 5 plastic, but we do accept them now. Now earlier when we talked about that bleach container, if you recall, we always want you to put the containers on. In this case, with this pump sprayer, it poses a little bit of a challenge. So again, this number 2 bottle is recyclable, but in this particular case, we're gonna wanna remove that nozzle, that pump device off of that and toss that in the trash. And the reason why is there's 3 different types of plastic in there in addition to a metal spring. As if plastic recycling wasn't confusing enough, we've got another curveball to throw at you. This container is actually compostable. I know that because I'm looking at the bottom of the container and it says PLA 7. So that tells me this is a compostable container. Now, why do we not want to put this in our recycle bin? It may get misidentified when it's getting sorted and scanned by the optical scanner, and end up with a batch of #1 plastics. So with this, you want to compost it. There's a couple different opportunities for composting in New Hanover County. One is our HazWagon. It was originally designed to pick up household hazardous waste and electronics from residents, but we added a food collection bin on there as well. So check out our website, look up HazWagon, and it'll tell you the 3 different locations where you can drop off food. You can also bring it here to this site at the New Hanover County Landfill. There's no charge to bring compostable material here, where we compost it into a commercial grade compost using our in-vessel composting program. There's also Wilmington Compost Company, which does door-to-door or curbside pickup of your compostable materials. This would be an example of a material that is acceptable in your compost waste bin. Unfortunately, backyard composting doesn't get that pile quite hot enough to start breaking this down, so you want to do it with a commercial compost facility such as this one or the one operated by Wilmington Compost Company. As we've fallen in love with online shopping, I gotta tell you, we're seeing more and more cardboard out there. Cardboard's made from trees, so we definitely don't want folks cutting down more trees to make us more cardboard boxes. This cardboard box is recyclable. Here's the great thing, you don't have to remove the tape and the labels from it. That all gets done at the mill where they get processed. So there's really no excuse or reason, a good reason, to not recycle this cardboard box. Now, cardboard boxes do get recycled back into other cardboard boxes, but as those wood fibers in that cardboard become shorter and shorter, the more often that this container gets recycled, they'll start turning it into what we call chipboard, which you see every day. It's the things that make paper towel tubes, toilet paper tubes, macaroni and cheese boxes, cereal boxes, and things like that. So you can give this cardboard many, many more lives before we'll need to replace it by cutting down more trees. So while we're on the subject of cardboard, one thing I'm sure you're asking is, what do I do with a pizza box? You can ask 100 different people and you're going to get 100 different answers. The answer is really, it depends. This box is made out of cardboard, which is recyclable, but the problem sometimes we'll see is that the bottom or the lid is covered with cheese and grease, and that makes it not recyclable. This box looks pretty pristine. You'll see there's no cheese, no grease in there. So I'm going to say that's recyclable, and I'll go ahead and put it in my recycle bin. Speaking of nasty pizza boxes, do we have one around here? Here's a perfect example of what not to put in your recycle bin. So this pizza box, just covered in grease on the bottom. But remember what we said earlier, take a look at the top lid too. The top lid is fine, so we're going to go ahead and tear that off and recycle that lid. What's left is this greasy bottom. Let's either compost that or put it in your regular household garbage. So this is a complicated one. Now in our industry, we call this an aseptic container. It's a container that has a wax coating, paper, thin layer of foil, and a plastic liner inside. And just to make it a little more complicated, we got this plastic lid on top. So now you can take your aseptic containers and they'll contain things like wine, egg whites, orange juice, what have you. There's a lot of these containers out there. So what we want you to do is just rinse it out, put the lid back on it, and go ahead and recycle that container. What's really neat about these containers is how they actually do the recovery. They essentially put it in a big blender with hot water, and those different fractions of materials float at different levels within that liquid, and they can vacuum off the different types of materials separately from each other. So in this one container, there's 4 different types of material, and they're all recyclable. So this one is a definite recyclable material. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my recycle bin. Along the same family as your aseptic containers are your paper cups. We see millions and millions of these cups getting thrown in the trash every year. Up until recently, they weren't recyclable. But here in New Hanover County, we do accept paper cups from fast food locations. And what made it complicated to recycle before is that wax coating or that thin plastic coating that kept that paper cup from falling apart when you put liquids in it. We do the same thing with this container, this paper cup, that we do with our aseptic containers. It'll go in a big blender, get pulped up, and then those materials will separate. That wax coating and that paper will separate, and they can be removed from that process and turned back into another paper cup. Earlier when we were talking about recycling cardboard, I mentioned chipboard containers. This is an example of a chipboard container. You'll see many different styles and designs of this box. You'll see them in macaroni and cheese boxes, cereal boxes, any kind of thin outer packaging material. All you have to do with this is just make sure there's nothing inside of it. You don't need to remove any price tags or labels or anything like that. Flatten it so it takes up less room in your recycle bin, and go ahead and recycle that so we can turn it back into other paper products. Soft cover book, hard cover books are recyclable. There's only a couple things you need to know before you recycle books. If it's a soft cover book, you can go ahead and recycle it as is. You don't need to do any preparation to get it ready for recycling. If it does have a hard cover, there are nylon filaments in that matrix that holds those pieces together, and that makes it not recyclable. So we're not going to give up quite yet. If you'll cut that spine off, the front and back label will fall off, and now I can recycle it. Basically, you're taking a hard cover book and turning it into a soft cover book. But again, soft cover books are recyclable as is. You don't need to prepare them in any way for recycling. So this is what we in the industry call mixed paper. Mixed paper is composed of things like office paper, magazines, newspaper, Post-it notes. Basically anything you can tear that used to be a tree is probably something we can take. Here's the good news. When you're recycling paper products or mixed paper like this, you don't need to go through the trouble of removing staples, binder clips, paper clips, tape, things like that. It makes it so much easier because this mixed paper load is heading towards a mill where it gets put in this enormous blender with hot water and is turned into a pulp. This is going to get turned back into a toilet paper roll or a paper towel roll or a cereal box or a macaroni and cheese box someday, or maybe even some additional paper. In the family of mixed paper are things like junk mail. This envelope here does have that plastic window we're all familiar with, and I've seen a lot of folks take quite a bit of time pulling that plastic window out. The good news is you don't need to do that. You don't need to remove any tape or stamps or these plastic windows from this piece of mail to get it recycled. If you recall, that's all this paper products is going to go into a big pulping machine. That plastic is going to float to the top where they have skimmers to remove that. So all you need to do is just take it as is and go ahead and put it in your recycle bin. The main question we get about glass jars is lids on or lids off. It's really quite easy to recycle a glass jar. All you need to do is empty it, give it a quick rinse, take that lid off, and separately put them in the recycle bin. A magnet's going to pick this up and make sure it gets recycled. But as glass goes through a different process. Glass will first get crushed, then it's going to get separated out by color using an optical scanner that can separate out those colors very quickly. Here's the really fun fact about recycled glass. The very fine powdery glass gets mixed in with road paint to give that little reflectivity at night. When your headlights hit it, it'll reflect that light back on you. It looks like those lines are lit up with electricity, but it's really just powdered glass that's in that paint. The larger size pieces, about the size of a BB, get used for sandblasting. Contractors love to use that material because it's inert. It came from sand and it's going to return back to sand. Larger pieces called cullet get shipped to a glass jar manufacturer, get melted down and poured into different shapes or blown into different shapes to make new glass containers. Glass is infinitely recyclable. Like aluminum cans, you can recycle it over and over and over again. It doesn't lose any of its features or characteristics. It always comes back as glass. Electronics. Electronics are everywhere in our lives. Things like televisions, stereo systems, keyboards, mice, batteries, all sorts of electronic devices. There's some great news out there. Is if it's ever had electricity running through it, whether it's a power cord or a battery, we can recycle it right here in New Hanover County. You'll take any kind of electronic device, from the smallest device all the way up to large television sets, to your household hazardous waste facility, and we ship that off to various recyclers here in the United States to get that material recycled. So just take that device whole as is and take it to your household hazardous waste facility for recycling. So I want to say thank you for spending the time today to learn how to be a better recycler. And hopefully it was pretty interesting learning what happens to you, the things you recycle after they get picked up from your home or your business. The reason is right behind me, because you're going to ask yourself why. Why go through the hassle? Why go through the bother? Why go through the expense of recycling? The answer is right behind me. The landfill has 70% of its contents are either compostable or recyclable or both. They don't belong in the landfill. It's taking up precious space that's running out pretty quick. When this site was designed, it was designed to last 95 years, and right now we're at 25 years. So in a generation, we're going to be at the mercy of surrounding counties as to what happens to our trash, what happens to our recyclables. So that's the main reason, is keeping things out of the landfill that don't belong there, giving industries the raw materials they need to make the products we use every day, and the jobs associated with recycling, from the sorters, the truck driver that picks it up, the forklift operators that move the bales around, the truck drivers that transport it from different locations to their final destination. There's a big economy built around recycling. Thanks again for your time. Help us spread the word about recycling, because if we're not going to do it, nobody else is going to do it for us. So again, thank you for your time today.
Scott!